Jesus commends them for their work. He commends them for their servanthood. He commends them for the religious activities that they're doing. And the truth is, there in Ephesus, it would have been hard to be a Christian. The economy's built on either Caesar worship or Artemis worship. Like, people were persecuting you because you didn't, like, follow that. And so it would have been hard to be a Christian, and it would have been hard to endure. And so Jesus says, I know your works. I know the labor you're doing, and I see your endurance. I see your endurance. And I think this is an important principle for us as a church plant and as a church, and just even in people. Endurance is awesome, and it's needed, and it's a quality of our faith. But endurance has a dark side. The longer you strive and push and just get through, and you know what I mean? Like, the longer you're under that kind of pressure to endure, the temptation is to be a little calloused. You know what I mean? Like, the longer you go through a hardship, the longer you're in a season of struggle, the longer, like, the world just seems like it's pushing on you, whether it's faith or other things, it just can tend to callous and harden and change you. So when you're stuck in those situations, it begins to just do something in your heart. And I feel that, like, as a pastor of this church for six years and trying to build something in this community to reach the 90-some% that are lost around us, there are days where it feels like you go 10 steps backwards for every one step forward. Or you've got to dig so deep just to get even 1 inch of victory. Like it makes you sometimes just go, I'm tired, okay? I'm enduring. And so we all feel that in different areas where we've worked and like we toil, and it just kind of, it can quickly, after enduring, begin to take the affection away, the heart away, the passion away. And I think about even in marriage. Here's a good example. It's easy to start out in love, just like Dave and Sandy on the beach, loving the sunset and the sand. It's easy to start out in love, but over time, like the kids have this, work has this, and it's easy to shift from a loving, like we're passionate for each other marriage, to almost like this functional, what do I need to do today sort of thing. And that can happen in faith. And so there's this temptation in God's people to disconnect our heart for God in Christ toward our activities for God. That we go through the motions of activities, but we disconnect from the love that should be a foundational. In fact, I'll read you one verse. Amos chapter 5, verse 21. This is the Old Testament, so you know this has been a temptation for God's people for many, ever since God's had a people, there's been a temptations to checklist works and activities and ignore the heart. God says this to Israel. He says, I hate and I despise your festivals or your feasts. I can't stand the stench of your solemn assemblies, like a middle schooler at camp. They don't smell good. Even if you offer me your burnt offerings and grain offerings, I will not accept them. I have no regard for your fellowship offerings of fattened cattle. Take away from me the noise of your worship songs. I will not listen to the music of your harps. But let justice flow like water and righteousness like an unfailing stream. God is saying this. You're singing songs. You're gathering together, you're making sacrifices, but it stinks. It's not a good noise, and I don't want to hear it. But let your hearts be changed. Love what I love. Seek what I seek. Do what I desire of you to do. Let justice and righteousness be foundational here. And so you and I, we can be tempted to make faith more about what we do for God than rather our love for God. It becomes, here are all the things I do for God in Christ. I do because I'm a Christian, rather than here's my heart for the one who has sent his son to die for me and to change me and to forgive my sins and to bring total grace to my brokenness. It's so easy to make it about what we do. And so for us, we have to realize that, yes, there are activities that come with faith, but we need a love and a foundation under that. So don't forget, amongst all the activities we do, that love for Christ. And I'm gonna throw something bold out here, and you can argue with me later. That's kind of fun. I think a lot of when we experience burnout is far less a busyness problem and probably far more a heart problem. Like when you're burnt out and tired and frustrated, and I'm not saying it's not, I don't see your calendar. I'm not saying it's not ever a busyness problem. But a lot of what we might call burnout might be a heart problem. Whether there's calling misalignment, maybe there's an identity issue where your busyness is your worth. But oftentimes I never get burnt out of loving my wife, right? You should never get burnt out of loving your spouse or loving your kids because love is that foundation. And so we lean into love and it drives us to serve Christ from there. So look beyond the activities.